fun. I've been reading over your individual education plans. On everyone except for two, I think we can accomplish the things that you said. But one person wrote that he wants to make $1 million in 5 years. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to help you with that. The other one said that he wants to be able to pass the Series 7 from what we talk about in these classes. Needless to say, we don't quite talk about all those things. We talk about a lot of the stuff, but we don't talk about all of those. So the good news is all the rest of them we should do well. Let me start with just a video. This will be kind of our hopefully it'll.
To provide providently, we must practice the principle of provident living, joyfully living within our means, being content with what we have, avoiding excessive debt, and diligently saving and preparing for rainy day emergencies. May I share with you blessings in provident living that can help each of us. When we were newly wedded, I was in the Air Force, and we had missed Christmas together. When I got home, I saw a beautiful dress in a store window and suggested to my wife that if she liked it, we would buy it. Mary went into the dressing room of the store. After a moment, the sales clerk came out, brushed by me, returned the dress to its place in the store window. I said, "What happened?" She replied, "It was a beautiful dress, but we can't afford it." Whenever we want to experience or possess something that will impact us or our resources, we may want to ask ourselves, is this benefit temporary, or will it have eternal value and significance? Truthfully answering these questions may help us avoid excessive debt and other addictive behavior. When we are addicted, we seek those worldly possessions or physical pleasures that seem to entice us. But as a child of God, our deepest hunger, and what we should be seeking for, is what the Lord alone can provide: His love, His sense of worth, His security, His confidence, His hope in the future. I invite you to come unto Him and to hear His words when He said, "Wherefore do not spend money for that which is of no worth, nor your labor for that which cannot satisfy." May each of us also overcome worldly temptation by coming unto Him and becoming provident providers, both temporally and spiritually, for ourselves and others, is my humble prayer. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thoughts from the video? Yes.
I like how we tied in this addictive behavior and the temptation to overspend is in fact a temptation. What we talked about last two classes, we can't fulfill our divine purpose if we're enslaved to debt or other financial burdens. So it really is a tool of the adversary.
It really is. I've known people who stop paying the tithing because they think they're having to pay too much in interest costs. It's interesting, very smart. Let's talk about what's due today. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about budgets and measuring your financial health. So here's what's required on the personal financial plan. Let me just step back a second. First thing is there's our first quiz will be due on Monday before class. I'd like to give you guys a chance to have the weekend to work on it. Realize it's not in class, you will do it before class. It is a Learning Suite quiz. So assuming nothing goes down on Learning Suite, knock on wood, cross our fingers, then you should be able to do that. You will have 75 minutes for the quiz. It will be 10 questions. There is not enough time for you to learn all the things you need to learn while you're doing quizzes. So I would encourage you to kind of prepare beforehand. I purposely only give you 75 minutes because I want you to know this stuff. I don't want you to just, okay, what do I have to learn from the quiz? So I prefer to do that. Starting on Monday, we'll be handing around the bowling sheet. So the bowling sheet is, if you're here, you put an X, or you slash, you've read. That means you need to read either the PowerPoints or you read the chapters. Either of those are fine. Again, it's all tied in the learning suite. So you need to have that read before class. So we give you kind of the first 3 days. Realize also on Monday we're going to have a CD chart so I can memorize everybody's names. So I've looked at all you and I each of you have had a discussion with me. Of course, you didn't say anything back, but we've had that discussion with my app. But it still helps me to learn names when people sit in a consistent way. So, yes?
Is that quiz open slides?
Open slide, it's open to everything. So let me just give you a hint. Realize that my goal on the personal financial plan is for everyone to do as well as they possibly can. Anything before it's due, you can bring it to me and I'll grade it. And so I can pre-grade it, and if you have anything wrong, you can actually fix it before it's due. Also, I give you the grading key, and it's also on the template. So most of the stuff like service teaching, you write it up fairly well, you'll get full credit. Personal financial plan, do well on that, you should get a fairly high score. So it really only leaves the quizzes to get my distribution. So I have to make the quizzes a little bit harder. It was easier when I had closed book, but now that I make them open books, I realize there's a lot more things you can do. So everything is fair game. The syllabus, schedule, learning tools that we use, those are all fair game. In fact, some of the quiz questions will be actually using those learning tools. In fact, I hate to say how boring I am. I'm actually making another learning tool to help you with some of your stuff for Monday's class. But I encourage you to get to know this. Again, open book makes it easy for you, but it also makes it challenging as well. So there's the limit of the things that I can test on it as well. If anyone has questions you'd like me to consider for the quizzes, as long as you get those to me by today, I'll consider it. I get like 5 or 6 questions that I may use one, but still. So what we're doing on budgets, starting today, you are now living on a budget. You will hand your September budget in at about the second week in October. October budget the second week in November. So you're required to hand it in. All you need to do is follow this format. You'll have a cover sheet. Explains your differences and your explanations. What did you do well for the month? What did you do poorly? And your action plan is, what did you learn this month that can help you next month? And if every month we're trying to think about what can we do better, I think it will help us. The third budget you will hand in with your completed financial plan in December. So you'll only hand 2 of these on in. So you will have a cover sheet, and then you'll have your budget, your actual, and your difference by category. So that's all it is. So also included in the budget is a 1-year spending plan. And so I want to see you guys planning out a year. And when we're students, you planning out a year is probably a lot easier because you know what tuition payments you're going to do. You have a rough idea what books are. You know when your insurance and things like this are due. Yes?
So with Quicken, it has some examples of things. I imagine a lot of us are already using some part budget.
Okay.
Can we use whatever we've got?
You can use what you've got, and what we'll do is we will talk about principles of successful budgeting after we go through this side. Okay, the second thing we're going to work on is your personal financial statements. Cover sheet that talks about your current situation, an action plan for each section below. So you'll have your balance sheets, current situation, and your action plan. So what you'll do is you'll take your balance sheet, you'll probably do it hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks, and then in a month or 2 you'll do it again. And then what we'll do is we'll talk about those differences. We'll talk about those differences. Personal income statements. You'll do September, and then you'll compare it to November. Kind of compares those things. Personal financial ratios. Compare now and compare to what will be in November. And then the action plan for each of those is what can you do to improve these in the future? Again, what are we trying to do? Everything here is forward-looking. We don't care what happened in the past. What we do is we care what we're doing going forward. Questions? Yes?
Is there a specific date you want with your balance sheets?
Quick, let's talk a little bit about financial ratios. Which of these is forward-looking, which of these is backward-looking, and which is there right now? Income statement, forward-looking, backward-looking, backward-looking, balance sheet, current, budget, forward-looking. Right, so it doesn't really matter.
So you don't care which specific day, like
Yeah.
end of August or?
No, we don't care, especially for balance sheets. Generally what you do is your income statement. Where do you find your income statement?
It's your actual.
It's your actual from your budget. So that easiest one there is you get your September budget and your November budget, and then you just copy the two columns. Financial ratios will work on these two. So this is kind of our framework here. This is what we're working on. So I don't want to embarrass people, but the question is, do you budget? And I grab my chunk. Why do you budget? Yes?
So you have to spend more than you earn?
Well, don't spend more. So it's not that you don't spend, you just don't want to spend more than you earn. Other thoughts? Yes?
You know where your money's going.
You know where your money goes, you don't wonder where your money goes. You know, research has shown that the average person cannot account for 20% of the spending at the end of every month. You know what my goal is for you guys, for each of you? You want to know how much I want you to save every month? 20%. If you can do 20%, Dave Ramsey, he says 15%, and then a little bit more for your saving for your kids' missions and education. So then I just put it all up on things, just say 20%. Again, that's a personal goal that I have for you, and I've tried to live by that as well. Other reasons? Yes?
Be prepared for large expenses might come up.
Yeah, be prepared. Prepared for all the expenses that will come up, because the unforeseen always happens. Other reasons. Why do you budget? Yes?
Get on the same page with my wife.
Yeah, same page. Same page with your spouse. Other ones? Yes?
So you can target problem areas when you're spending?
Target problem areas. Are there a lot in marriage? Problem areas? Yes. You know, with a lot of differences. Other thoughts? Why do you budget? Yes?
Kind of like a performance measure. Kind of helps you to see where you are, how you can improve, or where you can go.
And measure performance. And you know what President Vaughn said? He said, where performance is measured, performance improves. Where performance is measured and reported, the rate of improvement accelerates. So if you do this and then you sit down with your spouse, you know what? You will improve much quicker. Other thoughts? Why do you budget? A lot of us, why are you in this class too? But why do you budget? Yes?
It helps me, I guess, feel comfortable. I'm not worried, I guess, about money and stuff.
Peace and comfort. How about why don't we budget? Yes?
It takes time.
Takes time. You know, it does take time, but you know what research has found? The people who spend time on planning. This was a smart money thing, smart money survey. They said they had 40% more saved at retirement than those who don't.
Correlation?
Pardon me?
Maybe it's some it might be self-selection.
That's
I
a
mean,
possibility too.
correlation.
Could be too.
Yeah.
Or it could be that those who spend time thinking about things, maybe you hit what you aim for. You know, which could be an idea as well. Other reasons we don't budget? Yes?
It can be depressing.
Depressing.
It's like you don't want to look at the scale if you know what it's going to say.
When I graduated with my MBA, that whole year I did not balance my checkbook because I was very depressed. And then the scary thing was that once I found out I wasn't quite as in bad a shape as I thought. But the downside with the money is people get themselves into really bad debt. And the sooner you can make the changes, the better off you are. Yes?
You've done it before and it's not worked.
Not working. Now, can a budget not work? Is a budget a tool or is a budget a process? Is the budget that's not working? Is it that we are not following the budget?
Well, I think sometimes you can make yourself have like unrealistic expectations, like
So-
a family grocery budget for a month being $20.
Yep.
So that's unrealistic.
So is it not working or is it unrealistic? Because to me, a budget is a tool. It's just math. But sometimes we're not realistic. And part of that is the process. But to me, I was trying to make the point, and so I asked someone to use a tool, and if they were joking around, is it a left-handed hammer or a right-handed hammer? And there is no left-handed or right-handed hammer. But the point they were making is it's just a tool. The key is to use the tool wisely. Yes?
Because I think a lot of people don't budget because maybe they don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that complicated necessarily, but sometimes people make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yes, well, yeah, sometimes make it more difficult.
I see this with my parents. Sometimes you get one spouse who likes to spend money a lot more than the other, and so they don't like to budget because then you can see where all the money's getting spent.
Yeah, that's right. Accountability.
Yeah,
So
you
why
can-
budget? We can put accountability here. Target problem areas. Same page with spouse.
But if you're that spouse, that's a reason not to budget.
That's true.
You know?
That's true. But the question is,
I'm not saying that's healthy long term.
so I would, and the downside is we have a lot of people right now. You know what the average savings for the individuals age 45 to 55? You know what the average savings are? Yeah, it's roughly about between $30,000 and $50,000. How would you like to retire? You're coming up on retiring. How would you like to come up on retirement with only $30,000 to $50,000 saved? So you either make the decision now when you're young, which is I'm teaching to the choir, or I'm talking to people in Education Week that really don't have much saved. One more.
I was just going to say that I think sometimes my expenditures aren't that complicated and it works out on its own. I don't know how you write that on there, but that's a reason why I don't budget, because it just, I know how much I make, I know how much I spend, and I never really think I have to plan for it.
I actually look at the budget, so you don't spend more, you know where your money goes, you're prepared, you're on the same page with your spouse, you target problem areas, you measure performance, it brings peace and comfort, and it ensures accountability. I think the why is a lot more important than the house. How about what have our leaders said? What have our leaders said about budgeting?
President Spencer said every family should have a budget. Why? We would not be going one day without a budget in this church or our businesses. We have to know approximately what we may receive and we certainly must know what we are going to spend. And one of the successes of the church would have to be that the brethren watch these things very carefully and do not spend that which we do.
Recent survey, 78% of people surveyed said money was one of the most important and the most critical decisions in their marriages. I think it's the same thing for single people too. So if it's that important, should we spend the time? I like what he said. He says one of the successes of the church would be that the brethren watch these things very carefully. We do not spend that which we do not have. Could that also be a reason for our successes as individuals and as families? Yes. What's the downside of this? What's the downside of this comment here? We have a prophet now saying that every family should have a budget. What does it take? What does it do to the budgeting decision? I think it takes it from a question of money It being a question of what? It being a question of faith. How do we do these things that we know we're supposed to do? Again, if we can tie it to a higher purpose, we can kind of see the big picture, if we can have that eternal perspective, all of a sudden, it's a lot easier to make the decisions. What budgeting methods do you use? What budgeting methods do you use? Yes?
I tend to just like have a spreadsheet. And then
Spreadsheet?
at the end of the month, I'll go through all of my credit card statements and things like that.
Okay. How many people here use spreadsheets? Raise your hand. It's a good number. Other things that you use? Yes?
So I use a combination between spreadsheets and Mint.
Okay.
I just go between those two. But I kind of have a question with this is, so my budget's not so extensive where I break it up in like clothing, movie theaters, all that. I kind of have like all that lumped into something you should call like everything else. So that's something, like, sometimes I spend more money on clothes than going to, I'm not going to plan, I'm going to go to $50 for movies this month. Instead it's like, okay, I didn't go to movies, so I have $50 more to spend on clothes. So more like kind of like everything else is fun.
So it's kind of your fun budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that more or less, is that okay to do?
I think it's okay. The key is to not go beyond it.
Yeah.
We'll talk in a minute about the principles of successful budgeting. Because I think we make budgeting too hard.
Yeah,
budgeting's a lot easier. So we use spreadsheets, mint.com. How many people use mint.com? Raise your hands. You guys like it?
Yeah.
I think it's good. And how about other budgeting programs? Anyone use YNAB? You like it? Okay. Anyone use Quicken? I am the Quicken dinosaur here. I've been doing it for 30 years. I go to the Quicken's anonymous program, the 12 steps, reading Quicken. But I like Quicken. In fact, I'll actually show it here in just a little bit. So basically these are software. Anyone use the envelope system? Yeah? Does that work?
Just started it this month, I'll let you know.
Okay. Just started it this month. Well, your budgeting programs kind of change over time. Yeah. My budgeting program, it was a college student, was quite a bit different than what I do now. How about other things? Envelope. Here's the one that most... Here's the one that most people use. It's called the denial method. It's called do nothing and hope. And the challenge is by the time you're brave enough to go talk to someone, you're so far in debt that it's tough. It's really hard to get out. And that's why it's so important that we each... It's so important that we each start doing it now. If we're not already on board, it's important that we all get on board. Let's talk a little bit about what are the principles of successful budgeting? I don't think there's a ton of them. But what are they? Yes?
Consistency.
Consistency. Okay, but you got to do it. If you don't follow through, you're not going to do it. Yes?
I think it's being has to be flexible.
Flexible? You know what I put here, you want to, you got to have something that meets your needs. And your needs could be different depending on your time of life where you are. How about other principles? You got the book there. You guys have read the book? Or is anyone going to remember what you read 5 days ago? The first one I think is you got to know yourself. have no goals, is the budget really helpful? It might help you be a wiser steward. So you got to understand yourself and your goals. If you have no goals, then the budget's going to be hard to live. So you got to be able to have those goals. Second thing, what's really the important thing in a goal? Really, it's just you just want to spend less than you earn overall. What's the third one? You want to keep good records for tax and other purposes. We used a custody account for my kids to save for my kids' education. It's a dumb idea. It's a stupid idea. I paid the idiot tax. But my daughter, when in 2013, I moved the money from my name over to her name because it actually was her money because I put it in a uniform gift and minors account. Well, the thing is when the IRS, when they saw that money going over, they included that as income for her. Well, she got this notice in the mail that says, "Oh, we recalculated your taxes for 2013, and you owe $3,000 more." And she brought that to me, and she was in tears. So I said, "Well, that's all right. We'll work on it." And it was due today, and I finally went back. And because they had kept good records, and I had kept good records, instead of owing $3,000, what it was the IRS didn't consider the basis for it. So we reconsidered the basis for it. And then we also took into account the education tax credits from her 1098-T, and she owes nothing. So I'll send that in today. Of course, I had to have an accounting grad come and help me out with it. That student help me out with it. But the point is, you need to have good records for tax purposes. Because if not, think of all the things, the more money you'll have to pay. So because they had good records, let's just save $3,000. Let's do an example. Do records does it always have to be a contribution to get a tax benefit on it? How about my wife and I, we go to Nauvoo every year for 6 weeks. Can I deduct those as a contribution? How about if you pay your tithes and offerings with securities in kind? Can those be contributions? Yes. Yeah, and the benefit there is you don't have to pay the taxes on it too. So we need to keep good records. So really, a good budget, all it has to do is handle these 4 things. Know yourself and your goals. Spend less than you earn. Keep good records for tax and other purposes. And use a method that meets your needs. You know, very few people, they probably need what I do, Quicken. So, Quicken is a good program, but it's not the only program. But I am trying to get it to you guys for really cheap for those who want it. I've got one more. I'm waiting from one other person to see if we can get it for a really cheap price, like under $10. What I'm going to do here is I'm bringing up my Quicken, so please be careful. I mean, this is personal stuff, but I'm just going to show you how it works. And the nice thing about Quicken, the other thing too is find something that works for you, and the second one is that doesn't take too much time. And that's the thing for me. For all of us, we're really busy. I tend to spend time, I spend this between probably 30 to an hour and 15 minutes on Sundays doing my budget. And all right, doing this. And so what I can do here is I click here and I'll one-step updates. Do I have a few accounts here? The answer is yes. So question is, why do I have so many accounts? Yes?
To keep it easy to track, I'm sure you have some for education.
Yeah, so it's keep it easy to track. If I have an account that says Mission Kylie, am I ever going to take that money and use it for anything else? I'm never. I will die before I take that money and use it for something else. So you've got a password coming in. There. But so the nice thing is, and basically by law, I'm required to have this many. Can I have one Utah Education Savings Plan? Can I have a 529 plan for all my kids, or do I have to have it by individual? You have to have individual. A Roth IRA, can I do it for my wife and I, or do I have to do it individually? Individual. How about an IRA? Can I do it in two people's names, or do I have to do it in a single person's name?
You have beneficiaries.
Yeah, you can have beneficiaries, but it's in one person's name. So the point is, you have a lot of accounts just because of the different requirements of the law. So, but what I do is I manage my portfolio, each of these individual portfolios, I manage them over in a risk level that I'm consistently able to. So what I've just done now here, every place you see a red flag, that means there's an item that's come in that I need to accept. And so do you see how easy it is? And so I've got 40 different accounts. I have no idea what the number is. I've got lots of different accounts. And what this does is this brings in each of the pieces there. So I don't have to type in, okay, I spent here. This recognizes where my spending comes in. And we go from there. So the other thing about this, when you guys get your portfolio, so it brings in all my brokerage stuff, it brings in all the portfolio stuff, does asset allocation, tells me what my asset allocation is, tells me what my performance is. So things like that in the future. So one account updated. Most of these say 0 new transactions is because I ran it this morning for the undergraduate class. And here I can close this out, and then what we'll do is we'll just come over here. UESP, this is my daughter's fund. So what happened is they sell out a lot of this is what they do is they sell out these things, they take a quarterly cost. And so my fees on this was about $4, so which is really good. So I can accept them all. And notice that some of this stuff we actually have to accept it. And so we'll just do it by lots. So for your accounting people, you will understand this easy. Let's go to the business visa. Notice here, DMV renewal expense. So this is property tax. Notice that it automatically remembered. So what's this? I hate to say, just realized that my boat wasn't registered, so you had to pay that. So I think this one's probably for one of the ATVs. So tax, this is actually for the LT80, the little Suzuki. This is tax on the boat. Market cash play, so it remembers that that's lunches, dad's lunch. So the nice thing about this is it helps remember these things. Hey, this is my kids buying things. That's kids' own money. So what happens is my kids have to reimburse me for those amounts. Actually, this, yeah. LS Taco Shop, dad's lunch, Marketplace Cafe, CVS Pharmacy. Actually, that's medicine. So actually what that is I went into CVS and I bought a cord that I thought would do for my iPhone. And it was $6. I thought I could afford that. Then I found it was the wrong one. And the iPhone one was $14, and I said, it's not worth it, so I took it back. It's not bad either. Here is date. My wife and I go to the temple. So, but the point here, you see, once you set it up, it's pretty easy. And then we can come up here on the reports, and then we can do spending, and I haven't finished this here. Spending, and then I can come here. Current budget. For this month, you can actually see where the things are. So the point here is, with your budget, you not only need to make it meet your needs, but make it so it's quick. So you can spend your time on the things that are most important. So again, I'll try to get budgets Quicken for those who are interested. It won't be a required, but I think it's important. Is there a better way to budget?
Probably.
What's the old way of budgeting? Yeah, that's right. The old way was this. Lord first, paid your expenses, and then you paid yourself last. What's the downside of this? Yeah, there's never any money at the end of the month.
You're never saving.
And you're never saving, and you're like 60% of the people who don't pay off their debts. Let me tell you about the better way. Again, you pay the Lord first, you pay yourself second, and then you pay your expenses. Now you've got twice the chance of accomplishing the goals. Yes?
What happens if you follow this model and your expenses outweigh your income after you paid the Lord and yourself?
Okay. Do you really think this is important?
What's that?
Is it important to live this framework? Okay. If it's that important to reckon, you'll find a way to make it work. Because it's easy to say, well, it doesn't work. It's harder to say, okay, I'll take the initiative. And I'll go find a way to make it work. Does it take faith to do this? Yeah. My wife and I have lived with it, and we know it. If you read all of the self-help books. Most of Millionaire Next Door, Dave Ramsey, all of these. You read those, and they basically will talk about this. Yes?
Because I can explain it too. Because it's basically you want to have savings so that in case you lose your job or have something that you can't pay for. So basically you're paying yourself, so in case something happens later, you can still pay your expenses. It's not like you're putting yourself first or that you want the new car first. It's that you're preparing yourself so that when hard times come, you'll be able to pay your expenses later. So it's not like you're...
When you're paying yourself, does that mean you're going to buy a new car? New CD player? New set of CDs?
Well, it depends on what your goals are. So if you're saving to buy a car, then you can see it as that.
But I would save that outside of that 20%. But it's nice. When my daughter got that email, it said she took $3,000 more in taxes. And I said, don't worry about it. We'll work it out. I hate to say this. This is our third child, and the two previous children, I paid a significant amount of taxes. I would say, college student taxes. Didn't talk with accounting friends who knew what they were doing. So, but the point here is that we need to have a priority. Can I get you to read this for me, and then you can ask your question after that?
Sure. After paying your tithing of 10% to the Lord, you pay yourself a predetermined amount directly into savings. That leaves you a balance of your income budget for taxes, food, clothing, shelter, transportation, etc. It is amazing to me that so many people work all of their lives for the grocer, the landlord, the power company, the automobile salesman, and the bank, and yet think so little of their own efforts that they pay themselves nothing.
So what we want to do is we want you to put priorities. We want you to take an eternal perspective. Take a longer term perspective. And if you do, you'll find these things. You have a question?
Well, now it's kind of off topic.
That's all right, I'll take it anyway.
You've mentioned your bad mistake with child
Custody
college.
accounts.
Okay, what is that?
We'll talk about it when you get into retirement plan. Okay. It's just a little bit ahead. Okay, any other questions on budgets? Okay, we're going to talk about measuring your financial health. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a tool. Do we have anyone here in the Sober Fund? Anyone here like stocks?
Yes.
Okay. This is a little tool we use in the asset management class. So if someone want to give me a ticker of a company?
Goog.
Do you want to do the L or just the, I think it's G-O-O-G-L. This is Google. And the downside is you don't have a lot of, well, you should do. So what do these ratios tell me? First of all, has Google done very well this year? Google's up 21%, the benchmark's off 3.6, they've outperformed by 25.3. Have they done pretty well?
Yeah.
Yeah. What are these? What's the purpose of these ratios? Is that kind of a fun little tool? So this is the average of the ratio over 10 years, the average over 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, and trailing 12 months. Did it take a lot of work for me to put that together? It's not a lot of work to use it. So this is kind of the same thing. As we work on our finances, we can build the frameworks so it doesn't take a long time. But what do these ratios tell me?
Financial health.
Financial health. So why do I want to look at the financial health? Notice here here's your profit margin, 24, 24, 22, 21, 19, 22. Notice it's coming down. Why do we have these little graphs here? Help us to see if it's improving. So in this case here, we're looking at this over time to see how we're doing. The ratios tell us what? I can tell the top multiples tell us how cheap it is. The operations tells us how well is the company managed. The DuPont tells us, how well are they managing their assets. But the point here is the purpose of these ratios is to help us to understand and to make decisions. Should we do the same thing with our own finances? Should we use ratios as we analyze ourselves and analyze our budgets? What are some of the ratios? What are some of the ratios you learned about in the book? Current ratio. So we had 3 different areas. What were the 3 different areas? On my chart, I had multiples, I had margins, and I had metrics. What are the 3 that we talked about for us? Liquidity. Second one? Debt. The third one? Savings. That's right. You know what I did? What I showed you was a very simplified tool. I have my financial analysis tool that gives me 300 of my critical ratios for every company I analyze. You guys want to put 300 ratios for all you do? The answer is no. So what we just do is we do 6 here. So ratios help us answer the question, how am I doing liquidity-wise, how am I doing savings-wise, and how am I doing debt? Let's just go, you read the information, let's kind of go through some of the problems and let's see how we do. Let's take 3 minutes, grab your pencil. We're going to put together a balance sheet. So what's the purpose of the ratios? The purpose of the ratios is really to help us understand the company and to make better decisions. What's the purpose of financial ratios that we do? Is to help us to understand ourselves and to make better decisions. So we're going to do 3 case studies here, and each of them we're going to ask the question, how are they doing? This would be a good quiz question. In fact, the next 3 will all be good quiz questions. We'll give you some practice for your quiz. Yes.
The 2 cars are worth 20,000.
Oh.
So 10,000 each, and there's a 10,000 loan on each.
Yes.
How 10,000 loans people do?
Yes. Well, they're worth 20,000 and they have 10,000 each. So the vehicles are worth 20 and they borrow 20 on it.
Haven't made a single.
So they made payments on them. But then just the current value is worth How many payments do you have to make until you get to the point where you value?
Depends on your debt.
So they depreciate quite quickly. So they probably made payments 3 years. Okay, someone want to take me through this? Asset size. What's their assets? Go ahead.
They've got $50,000 of net house.
Okay? Well, wait a second. That's not how you do a balance sheet. So I want to do, we're doing a balance sheet. We're going to start with our assets. What are our assets? So house at 150,000.
Right. Oh, okay. Yeah. So house 150,000, cars 20,000.
Okay.
Monetary assets 5,000, term for 10.
Okay. What's the total?
185.
185. How about liabilities? About liabilities?
You have the bills, which are
Okay.
1150, the car loans, which are 20 grand, the education loans 10 grand, and then the mortgage is 100, which I think is 131, 150.
So how are these guys doing? They got net worth of $54,000.
They're in the black.
They're in the black. You guys think they're doing well?
How old are they?
Like we could actually go through and do the old. So questions on age, because as you get older, you should have fewer debts. Whereas, let's just assume, likely case, that this case was written like 8 years ago. What do you think the value of this house went as it went through 2008? Does it worry you that most of their assets are because of or most of their net worth is due to an asset that they had little control over? Okay. So how are they doing? Yeah.
I was gonna say their monetary assets, their cash, it's only it's only 5,000. So that's not much.
That's not much to cover. Emergency fund is pretty low. Okay, here's our second one. Now you're going to do an income. Now you're going to do an income statement. So I've given you some things here. This is an annual income statement. 100,000, 6 years. Here's the amount there. Here's the amount there. There. So I want you to put together that income statement. And the question again is, how were they doing? So we're just looking at a balance sheet. It's kind of hard to see. It gives us some idea. What's the better method here? So the better method here is you'll get your gross income, you subtract your taxes, that gives you your income for living expenses, and then you subtract out pay the Lord first and then pay yourself second. And then that gives you basically your income for you. First give you income available and then income for living expenses. So we told you after the second day we start getting into the numbers. to start? Here's the information up there. Someone want to take me through it? Generally, we use the better method. We start with your wages minus your taxes. So how much is what's your total amount? Salary is $50,000. What are your taxes? So income for living expenses is $42,500. Then we say, okay, next we pay the Lord first and yourself second. How much for charitable contributions?
$6,000.
And then paying themselves? $5,000. So now we have total income, and then our expenses, we just added each of these areas there. Just make sure you cover them all. So again, total income there and total expenses. How are they doing?
They're not spending.
They're living within their means. Are they saving? Yeah, they're saving 10%. Not 20%, but that's okay. I hope you guys know that anytime you see me after this class, I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Number 1, are you living on a budget? Number 2, are you saving 20%? Number 3, am I on track to save that $1 million? $1 million. The goal of this class is to save you $1 million. You'll follow the principles. Yes?
Quick question. How can we assume, or can we assume, like quizzes and questions, that paying the Lord and paying yourself is determined on growth?
You can't. What? No, we'll give you the data.
Oh, but it just says check 12%, so just
Yeah, just assume that it's going to be on gross.
always growth.
Yeah, always gross.
Okay.
Yes?
You don't want us to get into like the specifics of like the tax code, like the mortgage can be deducted and stuff like
No,
that.
it's not for balance. When we get into on next Wednesday, we'll go through the taxes. Next Wednesday, we'll go through the tax portion here. We'll do federal taxes. And we'll get into a little bit more detail. But for right here, it's just pretty basic. So don't read too much into my case study. Okay, how are they doing? They're doing okay. Let's do the third one. Now what we want to do is we want to find out how are they doing as far as their liquidity? How are they doing as far as their debt? How are they doing as far as their savings? Because ideally, you start with a balance sheet, it helps. You start with an income statement, it helps. And now is when you go on to the ratios that it helps even more. So here's our information. So let's start. Current ratio. How liquid are they? What's their current ratio?
About 4-ish.
About 4-ish. How is that? Generally pretty good. Current assets divided by current liabilities. So generally, what's the rule of thumb? What do you want? Roughly about 2 or higher. Okay, they're doing well there. How about their month's living expense cover ratio? What does that ratio tell us? Yes?
If you didn't receive your paycheck, could you pay it money you already have?
Right, so how long could you survive if you lost your job? Which is the same thing that what you just said there. If you didn't receive a paycheck, how long could you survive? Now, do I use that 42.5 or do I use that 31.5 when I do that calculation? Why? Why do I use the 31.5?
You're not going to pay taxes and tithing on the paycheck you don't get.
Right, you don't pay taxes and you don't pay contributions on the paycheck. So what's the length? How long could this person survive if they lost their job? How long with the money? So less than 2 months. Is that a good number?
Not bad, but it can be better.
What's recommended?
3.
Yeah, 3 to 6 months. Yes.
So, 3 to 6 months, I understand, like, there's a good general rule. But I feel like if you have 2 incomes versus 1, it would make, perhaps, you're not going to lose both jobs simultaneously.
You not?
It's much less likely.
Probabilities there, but be careful.
I'm just saying, like, I guess, is that something you adjust, depending on the circumstances?
Okay, then how long are you going to plan on 2 incomes indefinitely?
No, but like, during the time when you are.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are other things you can take into account. Again, the principle is, have enough saved in case of emergencies. So that's kind of the principle. The details you can work out yourself. Okay, how about debt? What's their debt ratio? What is it? 0.7. So what percent of their assets are financed by debt? It's 71%. Does that make you feel good?
Well,
A lot of it depends on the age. If they were 25, would you kind of expect that?
Yeah.
Possibly if they were 35. But there's actually in this class when we get into retirement planning, there's actually a schedule that many financial planners use that actually the debt, how much savings you should have and how much debt you should have. Yes?
kind of on a similar sort of thing, if they were renting rather than owning, they'd look like they were in a lot better shape, but they still owe a perpetuity rent, essentially. You have to keep, I guess they could become homeless.
Yeah.
But, so they have a mortgage, yes, but if they weren't renting, they wouldn't have the asset and they wouldn't have the liability. So.
Is a mortgage an income-producing asset or an income-consuming asset? Generally.
Consuming.
Yeah, just ask me. We just spent $400 to have someone help us do our yard for your graduate. The MBA's coming here, right? So it's an income-consuming asset. But generally, the mortgage is appreciated. So what is their long-term debt coverage ratio? So 71% of the assets, 71% are financed by debt. I would be careful. How about what's their long-term debt coverage ratio? Let me just show you the section there. Here's our liquidity ratios. So you take your income available for living expenses divided by your long-term debt payments. Anything that has a time frame of over a month, or over 12 months. So 2.6 times. So you take the inverse of that, debt service ratio is 39%. 39% of every dollar they make after taxes goes to paying debt payments, long-term debt payments. So pretty hard to get ahead when you're paying that much debt.
So wait, I'm trying to understand, because the mortgage in there is just the mortgage payment?
Yeah, it's principal and interest too.
Well, no, so we're doing the payment, not the whole debt.
Actually, we're doing this principal and interest too there.
Well, no, what I'm trying to say is the whole debt is $100,000.
Right, so this is the annual payments.
So it's the annual payments.
Principal and interest payments for the year.
And I thought the income available for living expenses was $31,500, not $42,250.
42,250 is the wages minus taxes. The 31,500 is minus your.
So it's the wages
savings.
minus taxes. Is the income available for living expenses?
Correct. And the other one is after income available after paying your tithes and your paying yourself and paying the contributions.
You called it the same thing.
Yeah, I'll leave it as a towel. So the point here is basically almost 39% of every dollar they make goes to pay long-term debt payments. What's the absolute, or what's the limit by banks? 40%. Once you hit 2.5, they'll no longer lend you money. How are these guys doing? You're right on the edge. How about savings ratios? What is their savings ratio? So it's the amount you save divided by your wages minus taxes. I gotta make sure I use those numbers correctly. How much are they saving? 11%. Is that pretty good? What's their gross savings ratio? I figured the gross savings ratio is a ratio I made up. When I pay my tithing on my gross, so I figured I should compare my savings on my gross as well. 10%. So how are these guys doing? So here's just kind of the summary. Current ratio, they're 4.4 times, recommend greater than 2. Probably doing okay there. Month's living expense covered ratio. They're at 1.9 times. Generally, we're like 3 to 6 times. How many people here have lost jobs before? I did. I thought I was so well. I graduated with my MBA here, took a job in a subsidiary of General Electric, and I thought I was home free. 8 months later, when the bottom fell out of the shipping market, I lost my job like everybody else. So even if we have a good education, even if we come from a great school, things still happen. And the key is for most of it, is to realize that the most important, the only insurance you have are your abilities and skills. And so it's nice if you can have money saved up so you don't have to, the things that we talked about, worry and be concerned with things there too. Debt ratio, 71% of their assets are financed by debt. And a lot of it should depend on the age as they long-term debt coverage ratio 2.6 times. They're barely above the 2.5 times savings ratio. So what would you tell this couple? What would you tell them? Let's take each of the areas. Because the purpose of this class is really to make recommendations. So let's start on the liquidity side. What would you tell them and what would you recommend they do? Because that's what your quiz will do.
Maybe they could like downsize on their cars a little bit.
Okay, downsize on the cars. You ever hear that from Dave Ramsey? He says, sell those expensive cars. I mean, that's, they're basically in a net position too, so they could downsize on the cars. They might not need 2 cars. They might. We don't know too much, but they could downsize on the cars. Other thoughts? So let's start with liquidity side. So you want to...
Oh, sorry. I was just something that like my wife and I are looking at with like college loans because she's got a ton is you can restructure the loan payment.
So that's a possibility. You could restructure. The loan's still there, but you'd have a lower interest rate. We don't know at what rate. I guess we do know at what rate. Now, they could probably... Yeah. Any other comments? What they could do from a liquidity point of view? Don't everybody speak at once. You know what? The idea there, Amy's idea to sell the cars. They've got to stop purchasing. They either reduce spending and perhaps sell some assets. Cars is a good idea because that's a huge one there too. Some people think that you can spend your way into financial security. And who do you think you are, the government? And and they're paying so much on debt. 40% their take-home pay is making long-term debt payments. Do people like to be told that they need to cut back on their spending? No one likes to be told. But it's a lot easier to do it now on your own than to do it once do it after your house is repossessed or your car is repossessed. Things like this. Or after you're so far in debt. How about debt ratios? How are they doing there, and what would you recommend?
They can sell their house and rent.
You could. Based on their salary, that's probably not a necessary thing, but that is a possibility. You know what I say? I tell people that every fixed expense is variable in the long term. Maybe not medical costs. But a house is a fixed expense. But in the long term, you can always sell that. A car is a fixed expense. But in the long term, you can sell it. So we need to take that longer term perspective. Other thoughts on debt? Think about where most of their equity resides. And if this problem was done just before 2008, my guess is the value of that home's dropped substantially, probably 20%. So probably down to 120. You got to be careful with your net worth is mainly tied up in somewhat volatile assets. How about savings? Yes?
I think if they cut down their monthly living expenses, then they should save more.
Save a little bit more. How long have they been saving? How much did they save this last year? $5,000. How much did they have on their balance sheet? So how long have they been saving? Did they caught religion this year? You know what? And it's great. They've had a year's worth of savings. But we all need to think longer term on that. And so they get 5,000. Can't do anything about that. I would encourage them to reduce their spending. You guys haven't had a lot of experience. Well, anybody here have experience with working with people in debt? We'll share an experience I had in the next class, but it's not easy for people to come and open up. Basically when they talk about finances, they're bearing their soul. But you guys need to be able to be able to help people and make recommendations. Yes.
So you talked about this 20% savings. I understand that's to meet long-term goals.
So is that? It's not to buy a car. It's not for a vacation. This is for your retirement, saving from your kids and your own missions and education.
Okay.
So that's what I include those things there.
I was just wondering that and the priority of that over debt payments.